One of the hardest things about selling a product that is about helping people understand the Bible better is everybody always believes that they have the best understanding of the Bible. There is almost nobody you will meet who is a Christian who will admit, I don't have a hell in the blue clue how to study the Bible. Everybody thinks they know how to study the Bible, although the Bible is the most complicated text on the planet. Quick pop quiz. What is the oldest manuscript of the Old Testament? What is the oldest New Testament manuscript? What languages were the Old Testament written in? What language was the New Testament written in? What church father is attributed to naming the Gospels? If you were not able to answer all those questions, then you really need to learn how to study the Bible and how the Bible was put together. This person says, I share the gospel for free. And another issue with selling a product where you teach people how to understand the Bible, everybody thinks that you need to be giving this information away for free. People think that I should give away my work that has taken me 10 plus years to get this information, to get this knowledge, to study under my mentor and to study under my professor. And they think I should give it away for free. Whenever you want to do any type of continued learning on the planet, it's never free. And nobody owes you anything for free. Hell, God himself didn't owe you anything. John 3:16 doesn't say, for God so owed you that he gave you his only son. It doesn't say that God owed you Jesus. God didn't owe you anything. And I don't owe anybody free work or free literature to help them understand the Bible with 10 plus years of information that I received just so they can say, nah, that's trash. I don't need that. The biggest issue with selling work about how to understand the Bible is everybody believes that they do not need help with understanding the Bible. They couldn't tell you how the Bible was compiled. They couldn't tell you how the Bible was put together. They couldn't tell you about the hundreds of redactions in the text. They couldn't tell you about the source text. They couldn't tell you about the modern scholarship behind biblical criticism today. They couldn't tell you about cultural context. They couldn't tell you about audience relevancy. And that's a whole nother thing. So if you've been following me for a while, you know that I would have my lives, and this is when the TikTok algorithm was doing wonders, and we would have 200, 250 people in the live. And I would always plug my book. And right when I would plug my book, or right before I would plug the book, it would take me 1 hour. It would take me 1 hour to explain this is why you need to get the book. Because this book will teach you about audience relevancy. And then I had to teach why audience relevancy is important for an hour. Any other book, you would never need a 1 hour pre-class before the class about why audience relevancy matters, why cultural context matters. The Bible is the only book, and Christian people are the only people. You need to give these people a pre-class before the class, before I can even sell the book, before I can even sell the products. I had to sell audience relevancy and why understanding the Bible from the perspective of the audience matters. Because whenever we read this book, we never ask, I wonder what the audience thought. There are people who read at a 5th grade level and a 4th grade level. The people in the Christian church, they are below average reading comprehension level. And this is not me being mean. I'm saying this because the most success I've had with selling my products is I have to do a long form video, or I have to have a 1 hour live, and I have to give a pre-class before the class, because everybody in the Christian church, they all believe nobody can teach me the Bible. And then when they quote why nobody should teach them the Bible, right? They'll go to like the New Testament and they'll quote passages like, and no man will teach you anything. And if they read that verse and other verses in context, even if you just were able to comprehend personal pronouns, when Jesus is speaking and Jesus said, and no man will teach you, he's not even talking about you in 2024. Jesus is talking to the people in front of his face. He's talking to the disciples. No man would be able to teach the disciples. But people don't want to hear that. So if you have a Christian product, if you have a theological product or academic product for anything biblical studies, just know it is going to be an uphill battle. And you are going to be fighting with your customers to get them to buy your product. This isn't a thing where you can just post a video and you tell people, I wrote a book, go get my book. You have to argue these people down so they can understand why they need to get the product. You need to get the product because you need to know about audience relevancy. But then you have to teach them what audience relevancy is and why it's important, because they don't respect audience relevancy, nor do they know what it is. You have to tell people about cultural context, and then you have to explain to them why cultural context matters, because they don't know what cultural context is. Their whole lives, these people have been taught that all you need is the Bible. You don't need anything outside the Bible. And the people who wrote the Bible lived in a little bubble and they didn't pull from any other text. These people who wrote the Bible, they lived for 56 years and all they read was the Bible. They didn't read any other text. They didn't know about any other work. They just read the Bible. They ate shit and breathed the Bible. And it's like, God damn, these cannot be God's people. This really cannot be the people of God. You can't teach them anything. They think they know it. They think they know it all, and they know absolutely nothing. One of the things I talk about is the book of Genesis, and one of the first things people always say is, didn't Moses write Genesis? So you have to explain to these people how there is not one Bible verse that says Moses wrote Genesis. Then they'll start looking through the Bible for a verse that says Moses didn't write Genesis. And if they actually read and knew the Bible, they would know there's not one verse that says that. So even something as simple as the authorship of the book of Genesis shouldn't be a big deal, shouldn't be heavily disputed, but you got to argue with them about it. You got to argue with them about, look, man, the authorship of the book of Genesis, it's attributed to Moses because of tradition, but we actually don't have a name for the person who wrote Genesis. We don't know who wrote the book. And even it's an entire argument, and it is a 1 hour, 2 hour thing to convince somebody who doesn't know that there is not one Bible verse that says Moses wrote Genesis, to somebody who doesn't know that scholars have been studying this since the 1800s, to somebody who doesn't know that there are different models of the documentary hypothesis to explain the authorship of Genesis. Then you got to explain what the documentary hypothesis is. So it's like, to sell a product on biblical studies, you have to give people a pre-class before the class so they can at least get to a basic level, because most everyday Christian people are below basic. They are below average. They are below where they need to be in regular biblical studies. They don't know, but they think they know. And that is one of the hardest things to do. That is one of the hardest things to do with selling a biblical product. You're going to be arguing with your customer base again and again, all day, every day. And this is why we can't get anywhere as the church, because we don't want to sit our little asses down and actually listen to the people with the information. We all think we know everything and we don't. So it wouldn't surprise me if Christianity was just gone in 100 years, because you people don't listen. You don't listen to reason. You don't listen to scholarship. You don't listen. You don't listen to anything, anybody.